6'3" and under, they just don't know what to do with us. They don't know what to do with our size.
The size really is starting
And
to,
that's why
and we're
Dylan's
figuring out.
MVP. Dylan is MVP
Oh,
because we're finally figuring out that two towers rotation. He scored a career high tonight. Everybody's going to be talking about Janai Broom. We got to talk about somebody different.
I believe we are live probably for the last 10 seconds. So we heard your thoughts. Those of you who are
YouTube,
in
if you're
the
nobody's probably in yet because I haven't made the announcement. So let me get it shared
oh,
out.
we're out there. Get the announcement and then we will roll.
Oh, we just hit 250 subscribers. I'm not seeing us live.
Okay. Double check, make sure you can
Oh wait,
find it.
hang on. No, here we go. Now we got it.
Looked good to me. Pocket watch is here, so we know it's real. All right. You ready?
Yeah, just give us a nice long rolling intro.
Okay. Okay, wait a minute. Actually, no, I can rant about this team for quite a while. So,
You should rant about this game because holy cow, another one back to back, wire to wire. Let's go. Let's go. It's great to be an Auburn Tiger.
and you had to listen to most of this, right?
I had to listen to all of it. I only watched the highlights that they posted online. I did not see a single minute of this game.
Okay, okay. I'll try to steer where I can there. All right, here we go. Three, two. All right, everybody. The Auburn Tigers are Maui Invitational champs. A sentence I never thought I'd be able to say out loud on a podcast or at all. Auburn has won the Maui Invitational going away, beating Memphis 90 to 76. Pretty unbelievable game, and really 2.5 games that Auburn put together in Maui. We're gonna recap the whole thing and celebrate. Ben is here with me. He is working on a couple things, so I'm going to talk a little longer. But
I
we're
said
so
it's great
excited to
to
celebrate.
be an Auburn Tiger. Said it's great to come on, Matt.
Did,
We
did
gotta
you
love it.
see that? Did you see the whole bench
Oh, you
doing
could
that with
hear
the
it on the
Auburn?
radio broadcast. That's
Wait
how
till you
loud
see
it
the
was. It was
clip
coming
if
through
you haven't
Andy's
already.
mic.
Ben had to listen to most of this game, so he's going to have a fun game to watch at some point. But there were just so many special moments in this game, so much to get into. But the big picture takeaway is that Auburn is just they're number one in Ken Palm today. They get another great win. Memphis was undefeated, had beaten UConn and Michigan State to get to this game. I had a lot of concerns about how our perimeter defense would hold up against Memphis' style of play. They answered all of those. And for the second straight game, Auburn went out to an early lead and never looked back, never got too out of control, going down the stretch, which you love to see when you get a double digit lead. I would keep pinching myself. I can't believe Auburn won the Maui Invitational. I can't believe we've played in it twice. That's my level of expectation, let alone to win it like this, to go through Iowa State, to go through North Carolina, and then to go through Memphis. There was a phase in this Bruce Pearl buildup where Memphis was kind of this big recruiting and somewhat close in proximity rival. We haven't really thought about them in the last few years, but another great win over Penny Hardaway. And we're going to have a very spirited debate, I think, about the MVP in this game. So I'm just going to jump in and gush about Janai Broom because what he is doing for this team, at least in Auburn basketball history, I've never seen at all. I've really not seen anything quite close. The amount of responsibility he has on offense, how much we are running things through him, how much he's directing traffic. His handle has gotten so much better. He's hitting threes. He's been one of my best takes on this podcast ever was the first game I believe he played. I said he might be the best post back to the basket post player Bruce has ever had, which at the time was kind of a joke because we never really have great post players. But man, what he's developed into on both ends of the floor. Jay Billis is calling him a man among men multiple times in this game. The blocks, the assists, Ben, you've been on that. How much better his passing's gotten, the insane rebounding numbers. Obviously, the scoring, averaging 20 plus. He's the tournament MVP if you didn't figure that out. The official
Oh yeah, no
Maui
doubt.
tournament MVP. We'll talk about this game MVP, but man, can't say enough about Janai Broom. Ben, he's just unreal.
I mean, we've got to gush about the things that he's doing. He came into the Maui tournament averaging 20 and 10, and all he's done is increase those numbers. He flirted around with a triple double tonight, 6 assists, Matt. Just incredible stuff. He also had 3 blocks. Shout out Jackson. If you're out there in the windmill farm and you're able to join us, Jackson, we know you're going to love to talk about the block party. Janai Broom continues an excellent tradition of us having fantastic defensive centers under Bruce Pearl. But Matt, his offense is just on another level. We've talked about his ability to get one on one and go to his left hand over that right shoulder and how unstoppable he is. But he's added the 3-point shot to his game. He is a consistent 3-point shooter since conference play last year. He came in, hit the first shot of the game. Auburn, once again, never trailed. They led wire to wire for 2 straight games in an absolutely crowded Maui field. And Janai Broom finished tonight 2 for 4 from behind the arc, 50% from three. That's incredible for a guy that's 6'11".
And just to establish the dominance, I mean, his first 5 minutes or 10 minutes these last two games has just been unreal. And you know he's the focal point that teams are going to try to stop. And he just has an answer. And the most encouraging thing, perhaps, is how much more comfortable he's getting with that double big lineup playing the four. We've all had our hesitations about it. There's still going to probably be moments where he's not the most agile perimeter defender, or maybe if his three's not falling, you don't love it. But we're finding creative ways to still get him inside. Ryan mentioned that last night in his brave, courageous late night solo pod that y'all should listen to if you didn't.
Yeah,
Um,
shout out
I
Ryan.
just I just think he has an answer for every double team. He and I had my questions about Janai this year, not really on the court. I knew he was going to be a great player, but man, as a leader and as the alpha of this team, he is just so much more. He's still playing with an edge. He's still having fun, but there is none of the silliness that went along with his game a couple years ago. There's none of the pettiness, and he is just out taking names on both ends of the floor, and he is so confident, not only in his own abilities, but he is in a rhythm with this staff and Burgo on the play calling. He is talking to them on the way down. Hey, I like this. Give me that again. Run this. This whole offense today, Ben. I think if you get to watch the whole game, we really we always take a few bad shots, but the pace of our offense and the control of it was so good. It's really the best I've seen it this year.
Yeah, JP Pegues got a standing ovation from the Auburn crowd when he came out today because this is by far the most comfortable that he's looked in a game so far. He got to come in a little bit later, but I think what we're seeing is this team just beginning to settle so much more into its identity. The Twin Towers look we talked about early in the year seemed to have some struggles. It didn't really have an offensive identity. But man, one thing that has so impressed me in this tournament is Janai Broom's ability to set screens. We've seen it from a lot of our front court, impressive screen settings. But Janai talked about it in the post game against Iowa State, how coming up the floor when they needed a basket, he wasn't demanding the ball. He said, put me and Denver in a screen action. Let me block for my guy and get us a look to the basket. When you talk about the maturity and his ability to elevate the play of the guys around him, his unselfishness is what's leading to these monster stat lines because he's distributing the ball. We've got guys like Miles Kelly attacking off the bounce. We've got Chad Baker-Mazara, who is an absolute whirlwind on offense, scoring from every single level you can imagine. And Janai is just patient. He knows where his shot is, where he's going to get it, and when he's going to get it. And honestly, the best thing about him playing the four through 6 games, folks are leaving him open at the 3-point line in our flex action up there. And we're going to continue to get that shot. And if he keeps hitting, he doesn't have to hit at 50%. We just needed to hit 1 or 2 of those a game to keep these teams honest and to stretch them out defensively. And that's where you're going to see our second guy who is in contention for MVP tonight attack really well inside, Dylan Cardwell. We are finally seeing a Dylan Cardwell that is an offensive threat. Jackson has been begging for this for years. He finished a perfect 8 for 8 from the field. His free throw shooting still leaves a lot to be desired. He's a career 50% guy. But Matt, perfect from the field, a career high 18 points. And Matt, he tied Janai Broom for our team lead in assists with 6. That is 12 assists from your 5 position. I think Bruce is bringing the 6 back.
Maybe he is. No, Dylan was unbelievable. At least for one night, his offense, he did it all. He had a hook shot, he hit a three, he had some great dunks. His defense continued to be great and rebounding was stellar. We know you know what you're going to get from Dylan, and when you fall into 17 points, was that right? 17?
No, 18.
Um,
18 points. He hit one of his free
18.
throws to get to 18.
18 from him. I mean, that is just like finding money for a team that is already loaded enough. And the beauty of the double big lineup and Cardwell and Broom and all this is it's just an option, right? It's an option when Cheney gets in foul trouble. It's an option when it works. When it doesn't work, our option is to put Broom at the five and play Cheney or whoever at the four, and we're great with that. Like that's what our whole team is built on. So it's another one of these wrinkles that we've been talking about, the versatility of this roster. It's really, really special. And man, Bruce and this staff just you can't say enough in a situation. I want to get back to Dylan. I'm not trying to get off track here, but 3 games in 3 days, the scouts were incredible. Like I'm sure they split it up among the staff and they had different teams that they were prepped for, but to play those consecutively, we looked so well prepared. We looked like we had the identity like you mentioned. And you just can't ask for a better experience for this team with high expectations to go to this tournament, be in Hawaii together for however long they were there, and win a championship. This is a championship hunting team. I was joking today. This 4 opportunities to win a championship this year. We always talk about how there's regular season, conference tournament, NCAA tournament. Well, you also when you play in Maui, you get to win a championship too. So we're one down, and it is already making history. We've won the first 2 non-conference games ever in Auburn history against top 5 teams this year. We've also now done something that the SEC hasn't accomplished since 1993, have a team win the Maui Invitational, and it's
And it's only
Auburn,
happened twice.
not
It's only happened twice.
only twice ever. Yeah. So like this is making history in its beauty. So but back to Dylan. He didn't miss a shot, like you said. And he was just everywhere. He does so many little things well that there were clips last night of these, or maybe it was Iowa State, these possessions where he is just all over the court. He can guard anybody. And then we all know what kind of person Dylan. Everybody loves Dylan, and I'm sure he's going to get media availability today with his career high in points, and he deserves every bit of attention he's going to get because he epitomizes sacrificing for the team, accepting your role, and making the most out of what you can do. He's done that every year. He's stayed at Auburn. He's been loyal. And it's just so cool for him to get a payoff in a championship game in the Maui Invitational. I think every Auburn fan just has to be so happy for him.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Janai Broom is already running away with National Player of the Year hype. He's number one in Ken Palm right now in the running for National Player of the Year. He's already been announced as the Maui Invitational MVP. But I'm over here in the YouTube chat. If you're listening to this podcast after the game has already happened, don't forget you can always join us live on YouTube at the Jungle Auburn podcast, where we have a live chat. We try to go live after every single game. We managed to go live after every game of the Maui Invitational, even with these crazy tips. I mean, Ryan Storm and Norman was here last night by himself, but chat was here to help him out. And tonight, we got Mr. Gibbs in the chat saying, fellas, Maui Invitational champs. Are we having fun yet? What do you think, Matt?
Oh, we can't even wait till the end of the pod. We got to talk about how much fun we're having. It's
It's
unbelievable.
it's too much fun. We're in the golden years. Pocket Watch, we haven't seen your pick for MVP yet. Get back in the chat and let us know. But we got Chris Thomas. Chris Thomas is agreeing with me. War Eagle, it's MVP is Dylan Cardwell. My heart says so, and all other arguments will fall on deaf ears. I'm here to be the vibes guy tonight. The vibes are high for Dylan Cardwell. And we got Grit Squad in the chat saying, my first son was just born. Congratulations, Grit Squad. He wants to name him Janai, but pronounce it Bruce. Incredible. You're definitely not going to regret that later, my friend. If you have a pick for MVP, hit us up on Twitter or X, hit us up on Instagram, hit us up on the Reddit feed. Hopefully, Jackson can send us the Reddit feed later and let us know who Reddit's feeling for MVP. But we'll come back in just a few minutes and talk about who our MVP is. Matt, let's talk a little bit more about some of our other players that we had tonight. I mean, we had some guys that had really great nights.
Hang on. We got to finish MVP first, and I'm gonna lay out the case for Janai. Okay, while we wait for some votes. I don't want to rush
Chad,
this
just know I
because
tried to fight this.
no, we can't. I have a trump card I want to play, but I'm going to hold it back. I'm going to try to convince you otherwise. So Dylan was terrific. I think he had 8 points in the first half. He was 4 for 4. He was a big. We kept him and Janai on the floor together, and it was really really good. He was great, but who gave us the lead? Who was the most valuable player in this game? Not just in this tournament, but in this game. And it has to be Janai Broom. Ben, he had another double double in the first half. He did it the last two games. It's silly. And I would argue today his stats might not be quite as gaudy, but he was
Oh, Matt,
in
they're gaudy. There's no
such
doubt these stats are gaudy.
but he was in such control. Just the passes, the blocks, the he didn't have it last night against Carolina. There were a couple moments where he missed a couple things. I don't know that he really made a mistake. I'm sure he did, but I don't know if I saw him. I'm pretty critical. I don't know if I saw him make a mistake really on either end. And again, to see him leading, I cannot allow and this pains me. I just don't think I can allow Dylan to be the MVP because Janai is clearly the story coming out of this tournament. He's clearly the best player, I think, so far in the country. We'll see how he maintains it. I, and even today, I just think he opens everything up. He's
All right,
passing to Dylan.
I want to counter you. I want to counter you with that because tonight, by far, is the best night that the double big lineup has ever looked. And I think Dylan's versatility, Dylan's ability to extend his defense as an extra center that we have on the floor. It's not just that Janai is athletic enough to play the four position, and we know he can run up and down that court and is blazing fast at 6'11", 240. It's that you can bring in Dylan Cardwell, and he's not a defensive liability. And for the first time all season, we've seen him turn not just into an offensive asset, but an offensive weapon. He's that sixth man that we've been looking for that can get into double digits consistently because he's done it twice now this season. Matt, he hit a career high. Matt, he was perfect from the field.
But who is the most valuable player in this game?
Who was the
Yeah,
most unstoppable player in this game has a much easier answer. Nobody could get a rebound when
no,
Janai Broom was there.
valuable.
14 of his 16 rebounds were on the defensive end. He was an absolute vacuum cleaner. You heard him talking about it all night. He held Memphis to single looks so frequently with his ability to snatch defensive rebounds. We didn't see that rebounding out of Cardwell. I have to say, if there was one weakness in his game tonight, it was Dylan's inability on the defensive end to get some rebounds. But I just look at this perfect shot selection and think that whenever time Memphis went on a run where we had our backups and we finally took Janai off, do you have his minutes breakdown anywhere? Because Janai's been playing 30 plus all tournament, and ESPN hasn't put the minutes up yet.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have that yet.
That's what I would love to see
I
because there were times where we did not have Janai on the floor,
but
and that's always
but
going to be a vulnerable moment for us, especially defensively.
you are
And
correct. You are
and we
correct. But
never let Memphis get back in it.
as somebody who watched the game though, a lot of those minutes Chennai was off the floor was because we were up 20 and Dylan got to now I'm not taking anything away from Dylan. The 8 points in the first half, like I said, found money, huge. And then he hits, I think, maybe the biggest shot of the game, to your argument. Memphis hits a huge shot, I think, to cut it to 10 or 13. They had gone on a little run, and we had a bad possession, or Memphis did a good job defensively, where our only option was Dylan Cardwell to take a three at the end of the shot clock, and he buries it. And that felt like one of those moments where you just if he bricks that or airballs it and Memphis goes down the other way and scores, you just get more nervous. So that was a huge play. He had the confidence he didn't bank it. He swished it in. It was wonderful. Um, I just I just don't think I can do it. I hate it. The only argument I could maybe listen to, and Jackson hates this, but it's the co MVPs thing.
No,
I,
Matt. Listen, I'm not getting any more support from the chat here that I can see. I put up a little poll on Twitter to see if we can find. Jackson hasn't hit us up with what the Redditors are saying right now, but it's just so undeniable how elite Janai Broom is in every facet of the game. I mean, now that our offense is going to go through Janai Broom. He took 15 shots tonight, but hit 8 of them. He's shooting better than 50% from the floor. He had 50% from 3, 6 assists, 4 blocks, and a steal. I mean, that stat sheet,
that was going to be my
any more stuffed, we would be serving it tomorrow for Thanksgiving.
and you're right. He didn't play his full minutes because we were dominating. So he actually, I mean, uh, it. I just Ben, I think
ES,
if you
ESPN's
watched,
got him listed at 32, which is way more than I even realized.
yeah, no, he still played a lot, but we had a long stretch in the last 10 minutes where he was able to just kind of chill, which was great.
Yeah,
I just like he was such a force. It wasn't Walker Kessler level, like guys being scared to go at the rim, but it was kind of close. Like Memphis had a bunch of shots in near the basket that you could tell because he had the blocks and because they knew he how good of a defender he is. Um, he is just so crafty and skilled at grabbing the rebounds, at knowing how to defend. I think the key to this year for Auburn is defending without fouling. And Chennai just does an incredible. Dylan, even today, was in foul trouble.
yeah.
And I think Chennai does something at the rim. He is a presence there that really deters people from getting inside. And that's what Memphis wanted to do all game.
Yeah, Matt, we've finally got the Reddit poll here. Shout out Jackson. We appreciate you hustling through the holiday. We got AU Bear, Cardwell. I mean, yeah, it's Janai, but Dylan a second. We got T Gorgon 21 saying it's boring to keep giving it to Broom, even if he deserves it. So I'm going with Cardwell. Played his absolute best game offensively. That's what I'm talking about. But then we've got AU Art down here. It has to be Broom if we're being honest, and not just disqualifying him. I have to give honorable mention to Chris Moore. He'll never
Yes.
be MVP, but he dude comes out at 1,000 miles per hour and never stops. We're going to talk about Chris Moore when we get to the player breakdown. And then we've got Rich 437 here. It may be boring to give it to him every time, but Broom still deserves it. Flat out unstoppable. Matt, I think I got to agree here. Like we are witnessing Auburn basketball greatness. This has got to be what it was like to watch Charles Barkley in his prime, just an unstoppable force putting up incredible numbers. And even when the other team expects it and game plans for it, they cannot stop him.
Ben, the name of Tim Duncan was evoked on a message board today because his stats he is doing what Tim Duncan did in his junior senior year at Wake Forest, right?
Yeah, Wake
No,
Forest.
I don't know. That is like all time. And Bruce said it last night. If you don't watch Bruce Pearl post game interviews, I think you're crazy. I think he gives you things and he will be very honest. He was very, very, very unhappy with the officiating last night, despite our dominance over North Carolina, and he let that be known in multiple occasions. But one other thing he talked about with Janai, and it's true. Like I still don't know if Janai's an NBA player, but like a star, like a good, like a real NBA player. I think he could be on a roster. But how incredible is it? He is like Jackson used to talk about these guys, prototypical college basketball players, 4 year guys, development guys. We are getting the best example of that. And I hope he has raised and that's what Bruce said. Sorry, this is a long story, but he wasn't on the good AAU teams in high school in Florida. He was a 3 star. He went to Morehead State. He has had to work for every single thing he's gotten and the amount of improvement and development. And our coaches get some credit for that, but Janai gets some credit for that because he has
He's gotten
added
better
stuff to
every
his game
season.
each year and
Every
by
season
leaps
he's
and
better.
bounds. And he isn't the most athletic guy, and he isn't the tallest guy. He's really not. He's 6'10", 6'11" maybe. And
I think the scouting report includes his shoes.
he's a unique he's such a unique player. And Jackson and I have already Jackson said it in our group text, like, you just gotta just like savor it. Like this guy's doing it's kind of like Walker Kessler when we looked up halfway through that year, and like this is historic stuff, not just for Auburn history, but college basketball history. And maybe Janai's not quite there. I don't want to overreact, however many games into the season, but like he is doing and again, it's not just how good of a player he is. He is clearly dragging and motivating these guys with him, and they completely trust him as they should to be the leader and to be the guy. And that maybe is more valuable than anything. We know who we have, and Jackson would love this conversation because it allows everybody else to fall in line.
Yeah,
Everybody else can play their role because we know how we want to get the ball and where we want to get the ball to, and we know who we can go to when things get tough. And he has toughened up. You just can't say enough about it would have been so easy for this guy to be just an NIL guy to stay for another year, graduate, go to Europe, go
cash
play.
the checks. Yeah, no,
And
he's
he
in
is
it.
he is so engaged on both ends. And I really, Bruce said this last night too, like Stephen Pearl and him, Steven's kind of his guy. Like Steven's going to be the one to get on him, and Steven's going to be the one to encourage him. And like, and you saw that. I think there was either tonight or maybe last night, Stephen Pearl and Janai Broom are walking off the court with their arms around each other, like just like savoring and enjoying this process. It's just cool, man. And like, I, I just you can't. We could talk for an hour about Janai Broom, and it wouldn't be enough. And I think he has to be crowned as the MVP, and that is. I hate it because Dylan, probably any other night, if this wasn't a historic podcast night with a championship, I would not care as much about the MVP, but I think it matters. And I think Janai has to be the guy.
So, Matt, we've got Grit Squad jumping in saying co MVP Jackson can get over it. But Jackson has showed up in the YouTube chat and says, no co MVP, never again. AU Bear, welcome to the chat. We're glad you're here, Matt. The Twitter poll has only gotten 14 votes so far, but it is 79-21. Janai over Do It All Dylan. We are recognizing greatness. Matt, put the crown on his head.
I'm crowning Janai Broom. He won MVP all 3 games for us, right? In the pod.
All three.
So, I mean, it's just a dominant your best you want your best players to play in these games, and man, he has just been so consistent. So I want to talk about other guys, otherwise we'll be here forever. But Janai, just we gush about you. And by the way, after we revel in this for a week, we're going to Duke to play in Cameron Indoor Stadium, man. Cannot wait to see that matchup because Duke has a lot of size and Janai is going to be awesome to watch there.
We are walking in with our best team ever, but we got to talk about the makeup of our best team ever. Matt, let's talk about Chad Baker Mazara's tournament. Chad Baker Mazara has become one of our most consistent offensive weapons, even if he can sometimes be our most inconsistent contributor as a teammate.
He is so good on the offensive end. He creates and does weird stuff. And I wish I had better words, but he is a weird player. He's a lefty. He's so long and lanky. And that leads to some really weird fouls and some really weird situations for him in other categories. But man, he can get his shot off. He is uber confident, like classic Bruce Pearl player, that he believes he's going to make everything. Great free throw shooter that you love, I know. And
Oh, yeah.
he is he Janai is obviously our best player and our most consistent player, but Chad is somebody put it. What did somebody say the other day? I thought it was the perfect word for him. He's kind of like I mean, he's obviously the agent of chaos, but he's more than that. He's kind of a catalyst of good things, but he also can have some bad moments. Like we every single game, Ben, every game in this tournament, we're in Maui. The refs are terrible. We all have been watching these games. Hurley at UConn got thrown out of a game, and
Yeah, he was
all this stuff.
apoplectic.
But every game, Chad Baker Mazara finds a way to get in a review flagrant situation. It's just every single game. And if he ever could just do what Janai's done and just cut those little things out, oh my gosh, I think this I've said all really year and off season, like he is the guy that raises this team's ceiling. Like if he plays to his level and his capabilities, especially on offense, giving us another explosive scorer, I just think this team is so much more dangerous. And he fought through injuries. Some of them, he might have been, I don't know, maybe they were a
There might have been
little
some gamesmanship. There might have been some gamesmanship in there.
maybe some gamesmanship, but he came back. He did play his tail off. I think he really now banging knees that first night hurts. Like if you're done like that really hurts. So like I'm not downplaying that at all. It was just funny on whatever night that was, the first night of the tournament, Monday night. Like he looked fine on offense, but then on defense he was gimpy and couldn't move and couldn't stay in front of him. That's the kind of player he is. But he was terrific. Like he was awesome in this tournament. He hit huge shots in the comeback against Iowa State. And then tonight he had a kind of a quieter game, but he still ends up getting his, and he still ends up having these great moments. He's a terrific
Yeah,
player.
he finished with 14 points, 5 of 6 from the floor, 1 of 2 from 3-point land with 3 rebounds. But Matt, second on the team with 5 assists. He was an excellent distributor tonight, including the pass of the tournament, in my opinion, the no look over the shoulder pass to Dylan Cardwell. We saw Mary Tyler Poor on Twitter say, "Oh no, Chad's going to do that pass every game now."
Yeah,
and she
exactly.
might be
No,
right because He is exactly that level of chaos. But I mean, tonight, an excellent game as a distributor. Like this is a Jalen Williams stat line right here.
I was gonna say 6 shots. That's incredible. Like that's what I meant when it felt like he was quiet. He didn't jack up a ton of shots. He didn't really force anything. And there was a weird moment for him where he got an offensive foul when he elbowed a guy in the face on the first possession of the second half, and they took him out. And it looked like he was reaching his knee a little bit. Maybe it was a little sore. Um, and he was out for like the first 5 or 6 minutes of the second half. So it just
I
felt
think
like
we
it wasn't.
rested. Oh, go ahead.
No, I just saying it just felt like it wasn't quite. Chad is a very loud player when you watch games, right? He's
For
everywhere.
sure.
He's in the middle of everything. And this game, you're right. It was a little Jalen like. He hit some huge shots. He was very efficient. He was a solid contributor. But it just other than kicking the guy in the face who was on the ground right there, other than that, it was a pretty quiet night from Chad, and it was very productive and efficient.
I wasn't able to watch that play, but even Andy on the broadcast was kind of holding his breath, expecting that to be a little bit of a flagrant call. So we have Chad Baker giveth, and we have Chad Baker take it away. Another guy that had a pretty quiet night, although he seemed so effective, especially defensively early. Miles Kelly. He only played 13 minutes tonight, had 2 points, only took 2 shots, and only had 1 rebound. Matt, what did you see from Miles? Was he just getting some rest today?
Fascinating. I would have never guessed he only had 13 minutes. Um, I'm guessing part of this is because I'm trying to think in the second half, it would have been him. I know Pegues played a lot,
Yeah,
and there was
Pegues
a
had
long
18
stretch
minutes
with,
tonight.
yeah, Pegues played more than he had. Part of that was in the second half because we were winning big, but it was great for him. I think it was great for just him to be on the floor and get some good reps in a really good situation. Um, Miles, I just love that Miles took 2 shots. I think Jackson would probably agree with that. Like he is getting in the flow of the offense. And Bruce said last night after the North Carolina game, like it's the best he's defended. And I just think all these new guys, you have to learn to play defense the way Auburn plays defense. It's very unique. It's very different. And I think Miles is probably ahead of JP and ahead of Tahad getting into that. And so I told you today, I really like him being with that starting group. I just think he provides shooting. And we've seen, I mean, I think he's still shooting 40 something percent from three for the year. So he's still really shooting the lights out of the ball. And I'm kind
Yeah,
of glad to see him just
he's
have a
not taking a
quiet
ton of
night.
shots. That's the
But we
thing.
don't need every
No.
night with our 9 or 10. Like there's just, it doesn't have to be. Tahad was kind of had a rough night. We can talk about him. I mean, it, that the beauty of this team is how many options we have when things go poorly. It's not on any one guy except maybe
Yeah.
Janai.
And I think part of the reason is anytime we see these teams with explosive guards, we saw this against North Alabama too. Tahad struggles to not reach. He's a very aggressive defender. He's a very in-your-face guy. And although he's supremely athletic, a lot of these older guards, Memphis's guards are a little bit older. I believe they have a sophomore and a junior that were playing for them tonight, including their star, PJ Haggerty, who was our player to watch. 36 minutes, 27 points. I mean, he was absolutely torching. And their other guard, who's a big transfer,
Yeah, what
Tyrese
about
Hunter.
Tyrese Hunter?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Tyrese Hunter had a incredibly quiet first half, and that is all credit to Denver Jones and to Todd Pettiford and the way that they played defense against him and did not let him get shots up. Tyrese Hunter is an incredible player, but he's only 6 feet. He's a prototypical Bruce Pearl style guard, and we're getting to watch Bruce Pearl with his longest and largest team ever just suffocate people. And you could see that like the big lineups that he was throwing at Memphis's guards really got them out of their game.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely. I thought the key to this game was the perimeter defense because Memphis is going to go downhill. They're going to initiate contact and they're going to try to get to the rim. Um, and the beauty of what we did defensively was not only did we do a great job on really both guys, Haggerty just kind of made some plays. Um, but so everybody stepped up. You're right. Denver is a key to that. Tahad had kind of a rough game defensively, doing all the things you just mentioned. It was probably, I thought, one of his worse outings on that end of the floor. But Miles was good. JP was much better staying in front of somebody, which was great to see. But what I was going to say, let me make sure I have this stat right. We held Memphis to 9 3-point attempts. So
That
Memphis
they only
plays
shot 2 in the first half.
exactly. Memphis plays downhill and then they want to kick or finish at the rim. Everybody kind of wants to do that to some extent. And I just love how we defended without fouling for the most part, and we stuck to shooters. Out of those nine, I remember very specifically 4 or 5 of those were impossible, like brutal, tough threes to make. And they made 6 out of 9, but we just didn't give them much. We funneled that inside to our big dudes, and that's where that presence of Janai Broom was so big. But it starts with our guards. You know, Dillon gets in trouble sometimes because the perimeter guys let a guy blow by him, right? So you have to
Yep.
funnel it to them in a certain way, and we did that beautifully. Whoever had that plan on the coaching staff, because it's just rare you see anybody only take 9 threes. And in today's game and the way we have guys at the rim, that is just a beautiful way to play basketball if you can do it without fouling.
I mean, that's especially the thing is, teams are going to scout us. You know that our strength is inside. Matt, we've got Grit Squad and AU Bear here in the chat that want to hear us talk about Chaney Johnson. Chaney
Yeah.
Johnson had a very interesting tournament in so many ways. He looked like a true SEC power forward. In other ways, he looks like he's struggling just a little bit, staying out of foul trouble and finding a way to play consistent defense. His defense has had some excellent moments, but it's been a lot of peaks and a lot of valleys.
Yeah, he leads the nation in plays that would get my jaw to drop and get me off the couch. Like it's unbelievable. He had one tonight too. I mean, it's both ends of the floor. His athleticism is insane. But you're right, foul trouble is a big key for him. He had some tonight, especially in the Iowa State game. It really made Janai play almost the whole game. It caused a lot of trouble for us. We obviously came back and won, but man, was he fresh for that North Carolina game yesterday. When he came in, he played the entire second half last night against North Carolina because Dillon was in foul trouble last night. So we played a ton of Chaney. I think Chaney's fine. Chaney's hitting threes. Chaney's taking what the defense gives him. Ryan did a great job talking about the flex cut action and how good he is off of that last night on the pod. I totally agree. He is a freak. He makes plays in the open court that are insane. Some of his blocks are crazy. He had one tonight. That's what I'm thinking of. A left-handed block. You got to see it, Ben, if you haven't seen it yet. He timed his jump and knew the guy was about to jump and do a runner, and he beat him in the air, blocked it like from above him, and just like swatted it
Wow.
straight down at the basket or at the floor. It was a crazy block. So Chaney's really good, and I think if it wasn't for Janai being so locked in, and they clearly have some things they like with this double big lineup, um, I think Chaney is basically the sixth starter. And some nights he's going to finish games with Broom, and Dillon's not going to finish. He's kind of that swing guy that if we want to play that way, we can. And if we want to finish with Dillon and Janai, we can have Chaney on the bench. Chaney's a great story of
Yeah,
development as well.
it's hard to say what Bruce wants because so much of it has been dictated by who's in more foul trouble with who's playing more, Dillon or Chaney. But I mean, any way you slice it, this is a guy that was playing Division II basketball 2 years ago and is now a starter on the best, or could be a starter on the best team in America, and is coming out here and playing with teams like North Carolina and Iowa State and Houston and looking like he belongs on that court. And
He belongs.
it's not just about his athleticism. It's about his understanding, his defensive positioning. The four might be one of the hardest positions to play in Bruce Pearl's system because we ask you to hit shots from outside, we ask you to crash the boards and clean up, and we ask you to play defense against some of the best athletes in America. And Chaney Johnson just flat out looks like he belongs.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think we can have a conversation anymore. Jackson might disagree, but I don't think it's a question of if he belongs or not. He clearly, I think, has shown enough. Jay Billis said that today on the broadcast. Like he has just gotten so much better, and he is so much more comfortable. Um, he is every bit of a key player on this team, and I think it's just going to be situational, not just foul trouble, but matchups. Right? I think they're really going to lean
Oh
on
yeah.
matchups. Dillon finished the night. Playing against Iowa State, and he caused a steal to set up the game-winning possession. And there's probably going to be games where Chaney finishes at the 4 and Dillon and Janai's at the 5. So I love what I'm seeing from Chaney. I think there was a thought, and I thought about this too, that if Janai is starting at the 4, does that mean they don't feel good about Chaney? I think we just have a 3-man 4 and 5 combination there. Maybe Hudson can help out if needed. Maybe Chris Moore can help out if needed. But it's really those three guys playing 4 and 5. And man, that is I would I don't think anybody else has three better players than Chaney, Dillon, and Janai, big guys.
Yeah, and it's not just that. It's like the luxury of being able to put a guy who's 6'11" next to a guy who's 6'10" on the floor to start the game, both of whom are going to follow you all the way to the perimeter, and they don't care if you switch a guard onto them. I mean, we watched Memphis do this, but we watched North Carolina really try to do this last night, where they were trying to switch guards onto Dylan Cardwell, and he just did not care. He did not back down, and he was able to defend well without fouling and force off rhythm and off base shots. And that has been the difference for us in a 6-0 start with 3 wins over top 15 teams. It's our defense. I mean, obviously the offense has been so incredible this year, but the defense has been next level.
Absolutely. Um, you know me, I'm a defensive guy, Ben, and it is so encouraging to see us so locked in. It is we are so locked into what we're doing. There was a play where Cheney blew a switch. Uh, we were up like 10 or 12 in the first half, and you'd have thought Stephen Pearl was about to destroy Cheney Johnson's soul because they are that locked in to and the mistakes are so rare with this group on the defensive end. And when it happens, you're almost like, what the heck? How did that happen? And I mean, it's college basketball. It's going to happen more often, but these guys are really doing a great job. And it starts there. And Bruce always says, the defense and rebounding is what wins championships. It's what helps you survive those off shooting games that you know you're going to have. And we are starting. I mean, this is the first time I can ever remember an Auburn team that has such a high ceiling on both ends of the floor this early and knows who they are. Like you said, the identity piece is just, it's there. And this is the benefit when you win playing great competition. I think that's the risk reward of playing a schedule like this. If you prove you belong, you talk about a confident group getting even more confident and trusting their coaches and trusting each other. It's happening before our eyes.
Yeah, and that's going to be the nice part. Jackson and I have been talking about this in the group chat a lot. We don't want a November championship. We have seen time and time again, if you're a college basketball fan, these teams that get hot early, these teams that win a lot of games early on, and then they never change, they never improve. We've seen them peak. And I think my favorite part about watching this Maui tournament, especially that first game against Iowa State, I mean, we've got some weaknesses on this team, but even more than weaknesses, we've got fight on this team. We've got guys that are willing to settle in and not worry about who's getting the ball, who's getting the shots. It's how do we stop this team? How do we defend better? How do we get more guys involved on the offensive end? It's a recipe for success all the way down the road. We've already proven twice that we can stage double-digit comebacks. I mean, when have you seen that from an Auburn basketball team?
I mean, it's special. We've had groups that can do some of those things, but not all of them, and not to the consistent level that this group so far has played. You're right. It's important that we keep improving and keep finding ways to get better. And I really think there's still some opportunities to do that. Obviously, the key is keeping everybody healthy mainly. That's kind of my thing that I'm already thinking about just how well oiled this thing is. You don't want guys to be out and have to start shuffling things around. Obviously, that happens most seasons, and you just have to go with it. But anyway,
Well,
who have we
speaking of
not
having
talked
guys out
about?
and shuffling guys around, let's talk about Chris Moore's play in this tournament
Yeah.
because his minutes have not been huge, but boy, have they been valuable. I mean, at the end of that Iowa State game, Chris Moore had an offensive rebound that absolutely saved a possession. And we saw him come in tonight. He played 16 minutes, which might be his most all year. He only scored 2 points, but he had 2 assists, a rebound, and a steal.
Yeah, it's never about the stat sheet with Chris. You're right. He does a lot of things. The play I can't believe isn't getting more attention from Monday night in that Iowa State game. Yes, the offensive rebound was huge, and I think it was the possession after that. He had the ball, dribbled in, and made a beautiful pass to Chad, I think, in the corner, and got an assist on one of the key, like second to last baskets of the game. I think it was like he was the one who found the open man and had the ball in his hands when everybody's so scared for Chris Moore to have the ball in his hands. He's a tremendous defender. Everybody knows about his energy. And obviously, he's such a good leader in this locker room. When you don't get a culture like this that shows on the floor without guys like that. And there were just moments, Ben, you would have been so happy with him tonight where he played 16 minutes. He's playing both 3 and 4. He didn't tonight. He played on the wing, but he can give you that versatility that we need. There were just sometimes, Ben, the guy wasn't even guarding him because they kind of want Chris Moore to shoot the three or whatever, or an outside shot. And he could have like anybody can take at an open 18-footer, like in a Bruce Pearl offense. If you're open, you probably need to shoot it. Um, he just throws it into Janai, bounce back. And it's just like he knows his role. He knows how valuable number four is, and he just wants to win. And he is a guy I trust him on the floor. I know it's not always pretty, but when he's been healthy, I think people forget there's a difference between healthy Chris Moore and hurt Chris Moore that's trying to play through a shoulder that's been dislocated. Like, people are very quickly forgetting how good he was in the SEC tournament to win us that title last year. So Chris is just the Swiss Army knife that I think you need. We've needed it already this year with the Jakai and Turtle situation. Like, he has had to play both those positions more than he would have because they did whatever happened on the plane. And having a guy like Chris Moore just covers all that in such a powerful way. He's our he can play power forward if somebody gets in trouble, we need him. He can play on the wing if we need him. And I think he's still one of our best perimeter defenders. Jackson was talking about him getting cooked. I'm sick of seeing him get cooked on defense. Chris Moore rarely, if ever, gets cooked on defense. I just want to clarify that for
Well,
everybody who
but
listens to
hang
the
on,
podcast.
Jackson's not entirely wrong, because it reminds me a little bit of, we've talked about this a lot. Chris Moore is our Lior Berman this year, and Lior Berman was an excellent defender. All right, he was 6'3". He had been a high school basketball star. He was in Bruce Pearl's
He
system
was
for
an
years and
okay
years.
defender.
No, he was a great defender, especially in the out of conference.
Okay.
And even in conference, his footwork was excellent. He could keep guys in front of him. He didn't take silly, stupid fouls. The problem is teams know when guys like that are out there on the floor. And we watched what happened in games like the Tennessee game last year, where they started switching specifically to attack him. And occasionally when Chris Moore is out there, teams will switch and try to go at him specifically because they know he's not this stellar athlete. He's a really good culture and glue guy, but he's somebody that you can beat if you are an elite player. Memphis has some elite players, especially at guard. And when they were able to switch on to Chris Moore, you're right. He's going to look vulnerable. And that does, it hurts to feel
I
like you
don't think
have a
he looks
glaring.
vulnerable at all. I
It,
just want to I want to make my opinions very clear
okay.
on the jungle. I've been off the podcast for a long time, so I just want to be very clear. I think Chris Moore is a plus defender on the perimeter on a team of guys who are getting better, but who are not very good on the perimeter. And I think that is very valuable. And I think we've already seen it be valuable. He was really good today when he was on the perimeter against these small guards from Memphis. I've never really thought he's a defensive liability in any way. Offensively, absolutely, but not defensively.
It just reminds me that when teams have elite players and when teams have elite coaches like Penny Hardaway at Memphis, they know how to attack your weaknesses. And even though
Yeah.
Chris Moore is great and we love him and we love his contributions, when he is on the floor, he is our worst player. And there's no shame of being the
He
worst player on the best team in America. But if you watch him, you're going to see that like they're going to go at him, and you know it's going to be great. Teams are going to score points against us. It's basketball, right? Teams score about 30 to 40% of the time they go down the floor against us, which is great numbers. And so you just have to not panic. And I think that's my favorite thing about Chris Moore. You never see Chris Moore panic. You never see Chris Moore get down on himself like some of these other guys can when they get quote unquote cooked.
and I think there's a weird thing in our culture about being cooked. Being cooked does not mean somebody scores on you. Being cooked means you're in awful position and you get blown by, or you're lazy on defense. And Chris Moore is none of those things. And I would just say, if I was playing against Auburn, I would be much more likely to attack Chad Baker-Mazara off the dribble on the perimeter than I would Chris Moore. That's all I'm saying.
Well, that's because you want to get to the free throw line, and they know that Chris Moore is not going to foul.
But yeah,
Matt,
yeah,
we
Chris
finally got to
stays
see
in
some.
front.
We finally got to see some Jakai Howard tonight. We finally got to see some Turtle Hudson. Um, do we think
Garbage
maybe
time.
we've put that situation behind us?
No. I think it was a nice gesture for Bruce and a nice willingness to let them play in a 20-point blowout in the Maui Invitational. Turtle got to play because we had some really big foul trouble at the four in the first game. Until I see them play a meaningful rotation, I do not think it is over.
All right. Well, I mean, we can only hope. We got to see a really fantastically athletic Jakai Howard dunk, but beyond that, no real meaningful contributions from either of them. They seem sort of like they're in the walk-on territory right now, and that's okay. We know they're still dealing with some internal discipline. Um, Matt, there's one guy we haven't really talked about enough yet. Well, two, and there are
I have two. Yeah.
our combo point guards. Who you want to talk about first, Tahad Pettiford or Denver Jones?
Uh, I want to. Tahan, I don't think we need to talk about a lot about. I think his defense was poor tonight. He definitely was reaching in. I was really enjoying Stephen Pearl yelling at him. Every time he would complain about a call, Stephen Pearl would yell at him and actually got a. Well, they said it was on Bruce, but the announcers thought it was on Stephen Pearl because the ref thought Stephen Pearl was yelling at the ref. He was really yelling at Tahad, saying, "You fouled. It was you. It was your fault." And he's got to work on that. He's got to defend without using his hands. I think he got beat a few more times than I would like, but still a guy who can hit threes, hit shots. I love his upside. I think he is such an important player for this team. So I'm pro Tahad. I'm not as scared for him as Jackson, I think, is. So that's all I have to say about Tahad. But Denver and JP, I want to touch on a little bit more.
Yeah, I think maybe Todd's in a really good position because it doesn't seem like we're looking for a guy to run point right now because we've got a guy and his name is Denver Jones. And so Tahad is just going to continue to get to develop as he does coming off the bench. And on nights when he's hot, he's going to play more minutes. And on nights where he's struggling, the burden's not going to be on him. And I think that's an awesome position for us to be in with a 5-star guy.
He's also another guy who can play. He's playing both. He's playing every half. He's playing point guard and off guard. So he is getting a lot of experience and he's learning the offense and he's learning when to throw those. He's a great passer and he's learning like Chad hadn't learned this yet, but everybody, you got to value the basketball and you want to make a big play down the court, but you also have to not throw it away. And he is learning on the fly against these great teams. And he's proven, that what did he score tonight?
He finished with 6 points on 2 of 5 shooting from the field, hit 1 of 3 from three. His
Yeah, I
first
thought he
three-pointer
hit
that he made was really good in rhythm. He only had 1 assist tonight, so some of that just has to do with the situation that he was in at the end of the game there.
Some of that has to do with how little point guard he played tonight, which leads into JP because JP got to play the last few games. JP's been having to play point guard because of foul trouble or because of rotations or whatever, and we're kind of having to survive it. And in the first half, he was on the floor for a big run. And I think that's when Bruce had a great moment. Bruce has so many things that are incredible about him. He is going to coach. He was coaching JP hard because he did not make contact with this guy before he went to the ball to get it on an inbounds pass, and the guy deflected it out of bounds, yelling at him, yelling at him, yelling at him. But when JP came off the floor in the first half, I think Auburn was up plus 8 or 9 in this stretch where he was playing point guard. He lifts his arm up to the crowd and he knows JP needs to get some mojo back. He hit a three. He didn't really turn it over, I don't believe. Maybe once or twice. Um, I think he just had a good night and he played more minutes and he got to really play a long stretch in the second half because we weren't in any danger. And that was so valuable, I think, for him.
Yeah, JP finished plus 14 according to Justin Ferguson tonight. Definitely his best plus minus of the tournament, which we know Jackson's not a big believer in. But Jackson, if you want to dispute it, come on your own podcast, buddy. That is a great
Yeah.
indicator to me of the positive effect that he's having on the team, which is what we want from our point guards. We want you to have a positive impact on your teammates while you're out there.
He ran the team well. He was not a liability today. And I would also say Ryan's been really critical. I've been critical of some of his defense hasn't been good enough on the perimeter. For this team, the way we play, there's not enough ball pressure, there's not enough quickness staying in front of somebody, and there's not he's missed some assignments. He was involved in we got a 5-second count on a guy who picked up his dribble. He was involved in that play. He was involved in some other good defensive sequences. I did not see him get beat very much, and I was pretty terrified for him going against the Memphis guards. So for him to play half the game almost and play decently well, maybe that's a springboard for him because I think I think we need him to buy some minutes at point. I really do. I don't think we need to bail on him.
I couldn't agree more. Shooty Hoops well felt the same way. Shout out Shooty Hoops for coming in and guest hosting with us during the Maui Invitational. Matt, I'm here looking at the MVP vote on Twitter, and the gap continues to widen with 27 votes for Janai and Dylan. So, although my heart is broken, I think we made the right choice there. Are we ready to move on and finally talk some big picture stuff about where this team is at and where this team is going?
Denver first, but yes, Denver.
Oh, how could we forget our man in the deuce?
Most underrated defender on this team. Bruce's favorite quote lately has been, "Nobody talks about it, but I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about how good of a defender Denver Jones is. How much he's turned into a great defender. He is. I love his height at point guard at 6'4". It just gives us a completely different look. He is clearly a scorer. I think he's scoring downhill better, and he is again. He is my new. I need to have a name for this guy, but he played almost as much as Janai tonight, and he is just the guy who makes winning plays. He is in the right spot. He does the right things. He takes care. He had a couple weird turnovers kind of down the stretch against North Carolina, but I just am not worried about him ever when he's on the floor. He's a good shooter. He brings so much to this team. He can play off ball. He can play point. And just think about where we would be if JP was playing like this to start the season, and we were having to play Tahad 34 minutes at point guard a game right now. Like maybe Tahad would be great and ready for that, but I just think Denver, the theme with this team is just the versatility, and Denver gives us so many good options. When we go big with him as the smallest guy on the floor, that is a
That's a
big
big team.
team.
That's a big team.
Absolutely.
And again, like Denver went the first 3 games of the season without committing a foul as a defender.
Yes.
That is so huge. Sonny Smith, shout out. We miss you. We know you love that defense without fouling. It's one of the things that's not going to show up in the stat sheet. Just how much he is able to stay in front of guards and force them to either give the ball up or take shots that they don't want to take. We are keeping teams in like the low 30s on in their 2-point field goal percentage. And that's been a consistent theme, even against some of the best teams in America. And that all starts with Denver Jones.
I have one stat I have to share.
Oh, please.
I don't think I've ever seen a guy have a double double in the first half in back to back games. I don't think I've ever seen that. And Janai did that. I don't think I've ever seen two quality opponents 2 nights in a row, North Carolina and Memphis, have less assists than turnovers. Auburn was 23 to 9, 23 assists, 9 turnovers. Memphis had 7 assists the entire game and 11 turnovers. And North Carolina, I believe, had a negative assist to turnover last night as well. That is just, it speaks to all the defensive things we've been talking about. And I mean, it's an unreal effort. It really is. It's crazy.
It is next level good, and it's why we could not be more excited about this basketball team going forward.
Big picture, we're Maui champs. We're 7-0. Ben, will we be ranked? Will the cowards at the AP or anywhere else rank us number one?
Matt,
No,
man,
they
do I
won't.
want it. Holy cow, do I want it. And the only reason why I think they might do the right thing and rank us the number one team in America is we have the matchup of a lifetime coming up. I mean, we were just hoping to have learned some things and maybe be around 500 coming into Cameron Indoor. Matt Donaldson, we are 7-0. We are the Maui Invitational champions. We have 3 wins over top 15 teams and 2 wins over top 5 teams. Who is this program?
It's insane. And the fact that we've survived this and we're still undefeated and we're setting up for that Duke game is just going to be so much fun. You're right. The bias in me would say, well, maybe ESPN wants number one Auburn going to Duke, but I think they're going to keep Kansas at 1, which is fine. I don't care. That's they're number 1 in KenPom. They're right up there with any efficiency metrics on both sides of the ball. They're doing it. I mean, it's unbelievable. The rankings, who cares? What we are doing, Ben, is building. It's too early to talk about this, but we are building an unbelievable resume for a number 1 seed potentially in the NCAA tournament if we can win enough games. We have to keep winning and we have to play really well in the SEC and play this gauntlet. But this is already one of the strongest. We've already have more quad 1 wins than we had all of last year, Ben. Like
It's
it's
incredible to think
crazy.
about.
It's crazy. I'll have to
Yeah.
share that
And
stat I texted y'all today too. One more, and then I'll shut up. Um,
yeah,
I somebody on a message board today. This is unbelievable. Right now, bracketology, which isn't science, but I mean, Joe Lunardi does a great job. Right now in bracketology, Auburn's regular season schedule, which is 31 games, something like that, 19 unique NCAA tournament opponents if the as the field is projected right now by Joe Lunardi. 19, 2/3 of our games. Oh, and by the way, that 19 is actually 21 or 22 of our 30 something games are against NCAA tournament teams. That is, I've never seen that before. In the SEC, I've never seen that before.
No, it is one of the most remarkable accomplishments that a team, I think, has ever done, much less an Auburn team. I mean, you think about the gauntlet that we're about to run. Folks, you got to enjoy the good days while you're in them. We just hung our first banner of the year. We have already made some incredible history in so many different ways, and it's going to get tough. You got to be ready for this schedule to get difficult. You got to be ready for this team to have an off shooting night where we take some lumps. So enjoy this moment while we got it, because this is exceptional basketball that we're watching.
You know what we haven't done yet, Ben? We haven't played a true road game against a top team, and we are going to get to do that in our next. We are going to go into the the Mecca, and Bruce has never coached at Duke, and this is going to be one of those historical moment. He said it's just going to be surreal to coach there and to be in that. So how does Auburn handle that? How's Auburn handle the environment? It's going to be another game on national TV on ESPN. Cooper Flag, all the hype around him at Duke. They have a really tall team as well, Ben. You've been talking about how tall we are. That's probably going to be our biggest test of really tall 1 to 5 that we'll face all year. Man, I cannot wait. It's going to be so much fun. I looked the other day, the cheapest ticket I could find was $1,000. So if you're going, let us know. We would love a correspondent at Duke. Let us know if you're going to be there and would be willing to give us some content, because that is going to be one of those, you remember where you were and what this, it's going to be one of those benchmarks for this year that we are playing at Duke, and that's a credit to Duke's program and how good they've been for so long. But I'm telling you, Ben, this team ain't gonna fear nobody, and they're gonna go in there thinking they're gonna kick Duke's butt.
Now, Matt, we've got Ryan, Storm, and Norman who's made it into the chat. Ryan, incredible warrior, stayed up until 2 a.m. his time, getting you folks a podcast, being live with the chat. Ryan Norman has sharing a little inside information here, saying the amount of Auburn fans that will be at Cameron Indoor next week will be the most away fans that place has ever seen. I certainly hope that that is the case, because if we have that place rocking, if we hear some clap clap AUs during those free throws, I'm going to lose my mind.
Wow, that would be something if that's true. I hope that's true. I find it unlikely, but we'll
I mean,
see.
listen, the Dukies love to get up for a big non-conference game, and it's just exciting to me that we are that team now. We are a big non-conference game for Duke basketball. Just let that sink in, everybody.
It's unbelievable. I'm so pumped. So, Ben, you got anything else? Are you having fun?
Matt, I'm having so much fun.
War Eagle, Ben, we won Maui and on to Duke, the next big
On to Duke.
road in our next big opponent in this gauntlet of a schedule. Thank you, Bruce Pearl. Thank you, Auburn basketball. This has been such a fun week. And man, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. We have so much to be thankful for in Auburn basketball. And let's just let's take a break. Let's take a breather from all these games, and let's just relax for a week. The guys are going to have to work their tails off to get ready for Duke, but we as fans get to relax, enjoy it, undefeated for a week. Let it sink in, and let's build up that hype for the Duke game. Can't wait to watch it.
War Eagle, Matt.
War Eagle.
Oh, man, I'm going to sleep for a week.
All right, took me a minute.
I'm so glad that made it in. Yes.
Yeah, that'll be a good leave.
Oh, it'll be a good tail end there. All right, I got the graphic cooking here. I'm going to send it over to you in just a sec.
Yeah, shoot it to me. I'll get everything up.
YouTube, thanks for being here. We had, I think, 19 people. We had a high of like 20 or 21 that were here at a certain point. Mr. Beautiful, AU Bear, Pocket Watch, so good to have y'all back. We got a couple other guys. Grit Squad, shout out, congratulations on your kid. We're glad you've been here tonight. Jackson, thanks for being in the chat, man. Thanks for being active and having some conversations with these guys. Gibbs, we love seeing you, man. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, shout out to everybody. It's always fun. So thanks for making us your stop to talk the games with. That's something we never really would have thought would be a thing 3 or 4 years ago when we started this. So pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a good time. All right, Matt.
I'm gonna
I
hop
won't keep
off.
you
I
any
gotta
longer. Happy
pack and
Thanksgiving,
fly for
brother.
Thanksgiving. So I'm out of here.
All right, dude.
All
War
right.
Eagle.